Hello, welcome to Progressive Education Society's Modern College of Pharmacy, Nigadi, Pune, in the e-lecture series of in the subject Natural Drug Technology.
Myself, Dr. Bhushan Pimpre. In this video, we will discuss about the cultivation, harvesting, and storage of crude drugs. In part 2, we will specifically focus upon WHO guidelines for good agricultural practices. The key contents of this video will be the first part, that is identification and authentication of the plants before cultivation, then seeds and other propagating materials used for cultivation, the various techniques and SOPs to be followed during cultivation, and various good manufacturing practices for harvesting of the cultivated crops, and lastly, the guidelines relating to the personals involved during cultivation, harvesting, and propagation, etc. The first important step as per WHO guidelines for good agricultural practice is identification and authentication of the plant material. The plant material that is to be sown or cultivated in the crop should be essentially first identified and authenticated, or else it may lead to cultivation of a wrong species or a look-alike species, which may result into unintentional adulteration. So ultimately the product formed or the crop will give rise to a wrong kind of product. So to avoid this, the first step is identification and authentication. In that, first is selection of the medicinal plant. Now medicinal plant that is to be selected should ideally be involved in that country's pharmacopoeia. So suppose we are sowing, cultivating the crop in India. So ideally it should be included in the Indian pharmacopoeia. But there are many such species which can be uh, cultivated in India, which are not banned in India and can be cultivated for their medicinal values, but they do not appear in the Indian pharmacopoeia. Now, in that case, the cultivator can look at another country's pharmacopoeia. Like suppose if you want to cultivate Mentha piperata, Pudina. In that case, you should first refer Indian pharmacopoeia. Now, if Indian pharmacopoeia does not involves the monograph of Mentha piperata, then you should go to USP. And even if USP is not mentioning it, then try another country's pharmacopoeia. See to it that the monograph is available in any of the country's pharmacopoeia. If not, there are chances that certain crops are absent in the pharmacopoeias of almost all the countries. In that case, the person may refer, the cultivator may refer to other countries' document. Other countries' document means other farmers who are engaged in the cultivation of Mentha piperata, or if it is mentioned or even on internet or any textbooks, even that can be taken as a source for identification of the raw material. That means we will be confirmed whether the plant or the seed or whatever the cultivating or propagating material we have is definitely of Mentha piperata and not of any other species. So we need to assure this first. In case you are planting a new variety or altogether a new species of the plant material, the species should be first identified and documented by the Botanical Survey of India. That means the detail the genus, species, vernacular name, variety, or author and family, everything should be reported for that plant. Botanical identity. The first part was about selection of the plant material, how you are going to select it. Now, once you have finalized the plant material, we need to assure that the finalized plant material is the same one what we are expecting. If you are going for Mentha piperata, you should be pretty much so sure that the plant or the seeds we have are of Mentha piperata only. So for this, we need to first search for the genus, species, or variety name and family, and should be verified and recorded. This should be verified first. Like so suppose there are certain synonyms of Mentha piperata called as Mentha spicata, Lin belonging to family Lamiaceae. Other names, that means not only we should not only record the botanical name or scientific name, but besides this, we need to have the local or English common names like Pudina or Peppermint. These names should be recorded because we are cultivating it at a regional or a local level. So the farmers engaged will not be aware about the scientific name. For them or for ease of communication, the local name will serve a lot. Then the name of the supplier from which from whom you have taken the seeds for propagation or the stem cuttings for propagation, the name of the supplier should be recorded because many a times you might have heard about that the seeds have been sown by the farmer but the seeds were unable to germinate. Now that is the problem related to the seed, and the seeds were developed by a certain agency or a company. So that company can be blamed for that purpose. In case if a new plant is cultivated, then in that case the voucher specimen number, that means the when you are submitting herbarium of the plant to the Botanical Survey of India in case of India, then the Botanical Survey of India will provide you with a particular identity number that this person has submitted this specimen or herbarium to our institute, and this is the name of this voucher number. So that, so suppose after 10 or 20 years, if anybody else wants to cultivate the same crop, in that case, he will go to Botanical Survey of India and he will just show the name of voucher specimen number and he will get the details about that herbarium submitted by you. So this is very important as far as research purpose is concerned. This is only in case of newly identified variety or a new species that is to be cultivated. Next, the other propagation material. There are various kind of propagation material like suppose stem cuttings or seeds or direct grafts and all, but usually followed are seed and stem cuttings or seedling. Propagating material should be specified. Like when you are supplying the raw material to an industry, how you have cultivated the raw material. That means what was the propagating material for the development or cultivation of the raw material. This needs to be specified to the industry. And in that case, suppose you are sowing soya bean. In that case, the propagating material you will write it as soya bean seeds. Supplier who has provided you with the necessary information like breeding history is to be recorded. That means the seeds, whether they were modified or they were what are the ancestors or parents of the seeds, that is to be recorded first. What, how was the crop? whether it was drought resistant or famine resistant or flood resistant or salinity resistant, whatever are the criteria of the parents, even that needs to be recorded for that particular seed. The seeds, while sowing, should be free from diseases or even fungal contamination, or else this will lead to uh, degradation of the crop on the field, and ultimately the produce will be less. So these are just the common SOPs or guidelines as to how a person should engage in cultivation. Then the seeds should be resistant or tolerant to biotic or abiotic factors. Biotic factors means like suppose certain fungus or pest uh, should not be able to cause damage to the seeds. So that is called as biotic factor. Abiotic factor means drought or floods or salinity. This becomes abiotic factor. The seeds or the propagating material should be resistant to both. There is no such material, propagating material, that is resistant to everything. But to which particular factor it is resistant should be noted. Then the quality of the propagation material. Like suppose there are chances that the seed provided to you can be genetically modified seeds. In that case, you should record that the seeds from which we have cultivated the plant were genetically modified seeds. And they should, even there are certain countries who ban the sowing or cultivation from genetically modified seeds. So in that case, just make sure the country in which you are cultivating the crop permits the use of GM seeds. It should properly comply with the regional or national regulations. Care should be taken to exclude the extraneous species. There are certain botanical similarities or similar looking species or unwanted species. Those should be excluded during cultivation. Counterfeit or substandard quality or adulterated quality of seed should be avoided for sowing, because these seeds will give rise to a poor quality of crop, or even the ultimate produce what we are getting will be of low quality, or the yield quantity wise also will be reduced. So in that case, unnecessary time, money and labor will be wasted. Now, once you are done with identification and authentication of the plant material and collection of or procured the correct and good quality of seeds for propagation, in that case, the next step becomes cultivation. Now, you can start with the cultivation of the crop. Cultivation means taking care and management of the crop on the field. That is called as cultivation. The condition and duration of the cultivation, it varies according to the plant material under cultivation. Let's suppose mango plant will take some years for bearing fruits, whereas some certain others like suppose soybean or wheat will take only a year or 6 months to develop from the seed until the plant and bear fruits and the seeds in them. So that depends. That period will depend upon the plant material. If you do not have any scientific published or documented cultivation data, like suppose you are dealing with a new plant material and you are unaware about the cultivation techniques for this particular plant material, in that case you can follow traditional methods. That means the way how traditionally crops of similar family are grown, you can follow that methods Even if these methods are not available, or if you feel that these methods are not applicable for the new plant material, in that case you can follow your own method, or you can develop your own method of cultivation. Like, we will take an example. Suppose grapes cannot be grown as similar to jowar or rice. In case of grapes, you need to give support to the vines. So now that becomes a new technique of cultivation. Same is the case with dragon fruit. You require a different support material for development of the dragon fruit. Before cultivation, the cultivator should be well aware about the good plant husbandry and various cultivation techniques such as crop rotation. That means the same crop should not be propagated continuously or throughout the year. Instead, after completion of one kind of or one type of crop, this land should be used for cultivation of another crop. And tillage technique. Tillage we have already discussed, that is ploughing and mulching, or you can rotate the soil. That means the upper layer should be pressed downwards and vice versa. These methods will be helpful for the plant growth and also provide nutrition to the plant or retain fertility of the soil. There is one more technique which is altogether opposite to the tillage technique, and this technique is called as conservation agriculture. Now, here in conservation agriculture, ploughing and mulching is avoided. Generally, ploughing is avoided or tillage is avoided. It is also called as no tillage technique. Herein, the soil fertility is maintained without ploughing. After completion of the cultivation period, the plant is uprooted or harvested, and thereafter a new plant material is sown without ploughing. This is called as conservation agriculture. It is also referred to as no tillage. In cultivation, there are certain points to be remembered. Like, before cultivation, one should choose the site where he wants to cultivate. The site selection is very important criteria, as you cannot grow saffron throughout the Indian climatic condition. It can be grown only in Kashmir, whereas strawberries can be grown only in Mahabaleshwar. You cannot exchange the crop. So the geographical location or climatic condition is very important before cultivation. A similar species shows difference in the quality and quantity of the yield when it is cultivated at different geographical locations, or when you are using different kind of soil or climatic conditions are different. The yield, taste, quality altogether differs. We will take a very simple example of Alfonso mango. The ideal climatic and geographical condition for the cultivation of Alfonso mangoes is Konkan area, and more specifically Ratnagiri. So, but if you take stem cuttings of those Alfonso mango, and if you try to cultivate it in certain other countries, European countries or Gulf countries, the crop gives altogether a different taste, different size, and different odor of the fruit. Or sometimes there are chances that the plant will not bear fruits. This is because of the G into E interaction. G is geography or geology, and E is environment. G into E interaction is very important for the proper and sustainable quality of the crop. Biosynthesis of certain phytoconstituent is drastically affected due to change into the environmental conditions. We will take another example of mangoes. Let's say suppose there are certain mangoes which mango plants which bear fruit sometimes later in the season, like at the end of the May or during the start of June. So the taste of these fruits are altogether different from the fruits, say mango fruit that has borne the seeds or fruits in during March and April kind. So biosynthetically also it varies. Even there is another example of a medicinal plant, like say suppose ephedra. It gives a different kind of ephedrine quantity, and sometimes ephedrine is not produced by ephedra if the plant is grown in humid condition. It requires arid condition. The risk of contamination increases with increase in pollution, not only of air but for soil pollution as well as water pollution. This may entrap certain hazardous pesticides or chemicals which are taken up by the plant and can lead to differences in the quality and quantity of the phytoconstituents. Past land uses on the cultivation has a great impact on the phytoconstituent makeup of the plant. So suppose previously altogether a different crop was cultivated on the same land. That previous crop has left certain excretory products, or you can say it has taken up most of the calcium or phosphorus from the soil. And if your new plant is in need of phosphorus and calcium to a greater extent, so the new plant will not get sufficient amount of the seed material minerals. So in that case, the growth of this new plant will be hampered. Even there are chances that the previous crop might be suffering from certain diseases, so the farmers might have used certain pesticides or fertilizers which are not suitable for the new crop. So this previous history of the site is very important before cultivation. Another important point besides a site or geographical location is climate. The length of the day, rainfall, and field temperature. Field temperature in sense exact temperature on the field, on the crop, on the farm needs to be recorded, not the temperature that is given from the weather reports of internet that gives you a vague idea about that particular um, district or particular city. What we are interested is in the temperature or climatic condition on the field, exact field site. Because there are certain, if you are engaged in flowering plants, there are two kinds of flowering plants. One are called as three kinds basically. Long day plants. Long day plants means these plants will bear flowers or will give rise to flowers only if the intensity of light is or duration of light is more. Similarly, there are short day plants. We'll take an example of suppose marigold. It blooms only in winter because in that case the daytime is reduced. So short day plants have they show flowers. And there are certain day neutral plants wherein they don't care how much duration of the light is there, but the plant keeps on bearing flowers, like say, suppose hibiscus. It grows throughout the year, so it is a day neutral plant. Whereas jasmine or mogra, these are long day plant. So now if your industry is engaged in one type of plant and your site is located or the climate what you have chosen is not favorable for that, in that case those plants will never bear flowers. So climatic condition needs to be taken into consideration. Average rainfall, average temperature including the daytime, that means that the variations in the temperatures are also very important, like not only the day temperature but night temperature also hampers or sometimes boost the biosynthetic pathway. So the ultimate phytoconstituent generation will vary a lot. That means you will not get batch to batch uniformity. Instead, in that will be batch to batch variation in the yield. Another point in cultivation is ecological or environmental impact. The plant you are cultivating should not cause any harm to the ecology or environment. Harm in sense it should not cause harm not only to other plants but other animals as well. We will take very simple example of say suppose Congress grass. Now this plant grows profusely and very at a very fast rate compared to other plants. Now accidentally your field, if it gets contaminated with the seeds or of Congress grass, then the Congress grass will flourish at a faster rate and take up all the nutrients of the desired plant material. In that case, the desired plant material's growth will be stunted or the yield will be reduced. So, medicinal plants they may sometimes directly affect the ecological balance, like so suppose genetic diversity of the flora and fauna can be affected. We will take another example how the genetic diversity varies. Suppose you have grown one new species of medicinal plant and this new species is able to pollinate other wild species or wild species of other farmers' crop. In that case, the genetic makeup of that zone or that area will vary. Initially it was different, but just due to introduction of a new species in that area, the genetic makeup has been destroyed or changed or altered altogether. Not only of the plant material, but the animals or butterflies or mites, termites or even pests which were surviving upon the previous crops will now be eradicated. So their count will be lessened in that zone. So that sometimes those will fall under rare category of the animals. The quality and growth of medicinal plant, the plant that is desired plant, is directly affected by other plants. The other plants means the other plants those are grown by farmers adjoining to the site where the desired plant material are grown, other living organisms and even by human activities. That means if you are cultivating a crop with, on the field which is very close to a highway, and if you are cultivating the same species which is very close to say suppose water body, so the yield will be different because the site that is located near the highway will be facing to more pollution or increase in the temperature or winds or heavy blows of winds, whereas the one which is facing towards or which is close enough to the water body will be provided with more amount of cool air and water, and it will be comparatively less polluted. So again the biosynthetic pathway will be affected due to this. Certain non-indigenous medicinal plants, non-indigenous in sense which are not traditionally grown in that area, but still if you are forcefully cultivating the plant which is exotic species, like we will take an example of Origanum vulgare. Origanum vulgare is the plant which is nowadays used as a spice or condiment on pizza toppings. So now this is not at all an Indian plant. It is an Italian or Mediterranean herb. Now, if you are cultivating those plants into our area, Indian area, practically there is no harm. But theoretically speaking, those plants are insect repellent. They have linalool content, which is in insect repellent. So there are chances that certain bees or pests which were surviving upon the previous crops have now been eradicated due to introduction of this new species. That means it is causing a major ecological imbalance in that region. Ecological impact of cultivation activities should be monitored over the period of time. That means you will not be able to notice the ecological changes or the change in the population or reduction or increase in the population of the pest cannot be observed within a month or within a year. This is a slow, gradual process, so needs to be monitored throughout the over the period of time. That means it may take sometimes 10 years for a species to flourish or a species to eradicate. So the plant after cultivation, it is a job of the cultivator to have a look at the changes in the ecological balances. Another point is social impact. Social impact means here, if suppose you are growing the plant in an area wherein certain other plants were grown and the population in that area is feeding or is surviving by selling the traditional crops. Sudden introduction of a new variety of crop will cause damage not only ecologically but economically in that area. We will take few examples. Medicinal plants, certain medicinal plants, they have negative impact on the local livelihoods. Like suppose certain medicinal plants, they arrest or prevent the growth of other plants, or introduction of a new species kills sometimes bees and butterflies, which are pollinating agencies. Now, if suppose the population surviving in that area, we will take an example of say suppose Pune zone. In Pune area, if population is surviving upon uh, sunflower by selling the sunflower seeds, uh, we know that sunflower is a insect pollinated flower. It bears fruits and seeds only if insects or bees and butterflies are there in the field. Now, suppose if you are introducing a new plant in that area and which are killing or which is pest resistant, the aroma or the spores are pest resistant. That means if these new introduced plant, if it is killing the bees and butterflies, that means the other farmers who were dependent upon sunflower, their produce has been reduced. So it has negatively affected their economy. So this case should be considered. Local income earning opportunities or small scale cultivation is often preferable to large scale production. That means you can in this case you can those farmers to take up the crop of newly developed species if at all it is not harming the ecology, and you can involve those farmers or you can involve those laborers and give them some job and help them earn money out of your job or out of your cultivation. Sometimes even the small scale farmers or the farmers who have very small land, those can be involved for group cultivation. Small lands can be procured and then those can be involved for group cultivation or cooperative cultivation. If large scale medicinal plants are to be cultivated, even if the cultivation is established, care should be taken that the local communities or the tribal people who are engaged in the cultivation of traditional crops will be provided fair wages. That means they will be made economically sound and equal. Your cultivation should also develop equal employment opportunity to those local people, and they should be motivated for capital reinvestment. Capital reinvestment means if those farmers have been benefited um, economically by your cultivation, you should convince them to invest that money back again into your cultivation so that even the same crop can be cultivated slowly, gradually at a larger scale. So this is the importance of social impact, or considering the social impact on growth or quality of the crop. We will take an example of not crop but milk. You might have heard about Amul, Anand Milk Union Limited. Now, this is a company that is a cooperative company and it is run by many farmers. That means it is a cooperative structure. Similarly, cultivation can also be made cooperative by providing fair wages to the shareholders. Another aspect in cultivation is the kind or type of irrigation and water drainage. If all the other the previous criteria have been met, but if this point is neglected or is not thoroughly studied for your crop, there are far reaching repercussions of this point. That means the irrigation should be controlled. As we have discussed in the earlier lecture, that sometimes it is assumed that more water will give rise to more growth of the plant, but it is not always necessary. The irrigation should be controlled. Controlled means you should be able to stop or regulate the flow of water. It should be carried out in accordance with the need of the individual medicinal plant. Whenever the plant is in need, only in that case water should be provided to the plant, or else the water supply should be cut off. Now again, this will be how, when to cut off and when to start the water supply. This idea will be gained only after experience or from the experience of previous farmers. Water used for irrigation purpose, it should comply with the local or regional or national quality standards. You should not involve water that is polluted or the water that has been heavily loaded with pesticides should not be irrigated, because there are chances that the water will carry the pesticide to the soil. Thus water will be drained down, percolated down into the soil, and the same water will go and attach to the, or go and meet to the water table which is below the soil. Now same water table is in turn connected with the nearby water bodies. So the type of water you are providing to the plant is over the period of time affecting the entire area or the region. That means your water is causing water pollution not only in your field but also in nearby water bodies like lakes or rivers. Care should be taken to ensure that the plants which are under cultivation should never be over irrigated or they should not be underwatered. Okay. So the optimum level of water should be provided to the plant. Even this can be learned by experience. The health impact of different types of irrigation. There, as we have studied in the previous lecture, the overhead irrigation, drip irrigation, or irrigation through channels. There are various kinds of irrigations. So, which kind of irrigation method is suitable or is well favorable for the growth of our plant needs to be identified and same should be followed, or else there are chances that the water may lodge certain spores of fungi and overhead irrigation may lead to fungal contamination of the entire crop, which are also called as vector borne diseases transmission that may occur in the crop. So this point needs to be dealt with care. Then soil, as we all know, soil has various types: sandy, loam, or loamy soil or sandy loam soil. Appropriate amount of nutrients should be present in the soil which is to be used for cultivation. The soil conditions or the soil quality should be initially tested before cultivation. That means the soil should, what is the kind of drainage, whether it is moisture retaining soil, whether it has optimum quality of fertility or fertilizers loaded in it, and what is the pH of the soil, because different plant require different pH of the soil. Use of fertilizers causes increase in the yield of the medicinal plants. But again, the fertilizer should not be heavily loaded into the soil. And sometimes there are chances that excess fertilizer may also cause harm to the plant. Ensure that the correct type and quality or quantity of the fertilizers are used by research. It is not that the same kind of fertilizer is suitable for our crop. You need to study in detail as to which kind of fertilizer, that means phosphorus rich fertilizer or ammonia rich or sulfur rich fertilizer is suitable for your crop. Accordingly, you should plan and spray the fertilizers. Most of the countries ban the usage of human excreta as fertilizer or manure in the field because the human excreta is heavily contaminated with microorganisms or certain parasites like amoeba, and this may enter into the plant and can give rise to spread of the infection. If you are using animal manure, there are certain organic fertilizers, or nowadays there is a new trend that is organically grown plant or organic cultivation. In this case, animal manure is used or animal excreta is used as fertilizer. Now, when you are using these animal manure or excreta as a fertilizer, care should be taken that the excreta is first composted. Composting is conversion of harmful matter into the excreta to useful matter. Now, this can be done by using earthworms, or there are certain red worms which convert the nutrients of the excreta into or undigestible or unabsorbable nutrients from the excreta of the cow dung or animal dung into simplified version like amino acids and monosaccharides. This can be done by red worms or earthworms. Then these are to be tested for the germination capacity of the weeds. There are chances that the cattle may feed upon certain weeds, and the weeds may or the cattle may drop the seeds of these weeds into their excreta. And if you are using the same manure, there are chances that these seeds will now germinate out of the manure. That means one day you will notice that suddenly the entire field has been occupied by the weeds. And from where have these uh, pop out is from the fertilizers you have sprayed. So make sure before spraying the animal manure or before utilizing the animal manures into the fertilizer, it should be tested for the germination of the weeds in a small pot or small area. If at all you have used animal manure for the cultivation of the crop, it should be documented and the same information should be conveyed to the industry that is utilizing or converting these medicinal plant into final finished products. Chemical fertilizers, if are used, should be approved by the local or regional or national regulatory bodies. Like there are certain chemical fertilizers which are harmful or which have negative ecological impact. So those should be avoided. And whatever fertilizers, chemical fertilizers you are using should comply with the regional or local standards or specifications. Now, another point that is important is plant maintenance and protection. There are various techniques of plant maintenance. Let's suppose topping method. Topping method means the superficial young buds are cut so that the plant profusely grows horizontally. That means the adventitious buds are motivated or promoted for the growth and the apical buds are suppressed by continuous topping. Another method is bud nipping. You might have heard a term phrase called nipping in the bud. That means when certain plants or certain superficial or the apical zone is in a young stage, it has to be cut from the plant. This is called as this is just uh, taking off the upper apical buds. Another method is pruning. Pruning means removal of damaged or uh, worn out plant material or plant parts because these can cause hurdle in the photosynthesis or the plants or the leaves which are located below the deceased part will not get sufficient of sunlight, or sometimes even pruning involves reduction of the plant material size. Shading may be used to control the growth and development of the plant material. Now, you might have seen various poly houses. A large polythene sheet is placed over a skeleton of dome-shaped skeleton of steel, which has ventilation facility. So there are certain plants which flourishes well in shade. For them, you need to go for shading technique. Now, after cultivation, once the crop reaches the final stage, the next step is harvesting. It is harvesting means the uprooting or collection of the plant part or the entire plant from a cultivated field. When a person or farmer sows the seed, he takes the care, and then if he uproots or take the fruits or the parts of the plant, This procedure is called as harvesting. Collecting from the sown or cultivated crops is called as harvesting. Every plant has a different time of harvesting. The time should be the plant should be harvested during optimal season or time period. You might have noticed in case of mango, the unripe fruits are taken out from the plant and then they are stored under dry and warm condition so as to facilitate their ripening, and the plant and then the fruits are not left on the plant for ripening. So now this becomes the exact stage wherein you need to harvest the fruits. The time of harvest, it directly depends upon the plant part to be used. It varies with the plant, it even varies with the plant part. Exact information about the time of harvesting can be collected either from national pharmacopoeias, or you can collect them from published standard journal articles or official monographs or even major reference books. And if it is not available in these textbooks, you can directly consult the person who is engaged in cultivation of similar or such crops. The best time of harvest is directly dependent upon the best quantity and quality of the bioactive phytoconstituent, and not only on vegetative growth. Vegetative growth means there are chances, suppose if you are dealing with uh, isolation of ephedrine, you must harvest the stems only when they are in young condition. Young green stems should be cut off from the plant because they have more amount of ephedrine. And if you wait for the plant to flourish well, then in that case, the lower plant stems will bear or will develop cork over the surface, and such stems will weigh a lot. They will be heavy, but their ephedrine and pseudoephedrine content will be less. Now that only by weight is called as vegetative growth, and exact plant part needs to be identified for the uh, collection or harvesting. Care during harvesting. It is not that harvesting season has started, so immediately and at the fastest rate you should chop off of the plant, all the plant. No, but utmost care during harvesting is very very important, because during harvesting, foreign matter or weeds or toxic plants should not be mixed with the plant material. Further, uh, during harvesting, the care should be taken to avoid dew drops or rain or exceptionally high humidity, especially during harvesting of the barks and woods or dried seeds, because there are chances that they may entrap the moisture and facilitate the growth of the fungus. If harvesting accidentally occurs in wet conditions, so suppose you are harvesting in a right season, but due to certain environmental factors on that day, if it rains, in that case, that means if you have harvested in wet condition, it should be transported immediately to the indoor drying facility, so as to remove the external moisture and prevent the moisture getting entrapped into the core of the material and prevent microbial contamination. Cutting, storing, and transport. The cutting devices used for harvesting, like say, suppose sickle or scissors, or sometimes the large harvesters of harvester trucks. These and other machines should be cleaned and adjusted to reduce the damage and contamination from the soil and other material. There have been cases wherein the materials were greased or oiled, and this oil enters into the harvested product, causing contamination or giving foul oily odor to the produce. Storage of these devices, cutting devices, should be in a place which is free from insect or rodents or even birds and other pests, because there are chances that the livestock or these insects and rodents may get trapped or may get contaminated or can lay their eggs into these large harvesting devices, or sometimes the rodents may drop their droppings or urinate onto them, causing infection or contamination of the plant material. Contact with the soil should be minimized during harvesting, because the soil-borne bacteria flourishes well on the justly or newly harvested produce. Large drop cloths, mm, like muslin cloths, or sometimes large cloths or bed sheets are taken, and those are placed between the plant and the soil, or sometimes those are laid on the soil and then the harvested products are placed over the soil. This avoids the direct contact of the soil with the harvested product. When you are dealing with an underground parts, like suppose potato or roots or tubers, rhizomes, the soil, external adhered soil should be taken off with the help of a smooth brush, and it should be dried. Ginger or turmeric, they are heavily loaded with soil. The harvested material should be placed in clean basket, or sometimes if dry sacks are used for storing of onions or garlic, or sometimes trailers, hoppers, etc. Whatever you are using should be well aerated. That means it should assist the drying after the harvesting. The transport should be again done in clean or hygienic environment and in a dry condition. The transportation trucks or tractors should not lodge water into their uh, carriages. Containers should exceptionally be clean and thoroughly dried and free from other contaminations before storing the harvested products. Plastic containers are mostly preferred for storing the produce, but there are chances that the plastic containers may retain moisture and further assist fungal growth or contamination. When such containers are not in use, say suppose after harvesting, when you are going for next cultivation, at that time the containers are not generally used, and those are just stored in the storage area or a godowns. Now there are chances that rodents, insects, or birds, they may create their home into them or nest, or they may lodge into these containers, and they may contaminate, or they may drop most of their excreta into them and contaminate the entire storing unit. So sometimes damaged raw materials should not be used, or even if you are storing the produce or harvested material into the containers, it should not be overstacked, because there are chances that the lower material may, if it is brittle, it may get damaged and it may cause formation of powders, or sometimes if there are fruits, fresh fruits, they may get crushed, the lower fruits may get crushed. So it's overfilling or overstacking of the containers should be avoided. After harvesting, sometimes there are chances that you need to store the material because of unavailability of transport facility, or unavailable or the proper stage of the material is not yet achieved or attained. So in that case, you need to store them in your godowns. So in the godowns, routinely you should carry out post-harvest inspections and process the harvested material. Inspection means if the material is contaminated, or even after harvest there are chances that the material may get contaminated with insects or rodents. So that should be taken care of. Second thing is processing. Sometimes you need to process the harvested material, that is by artificial drying or by removal of extraneous matter or removal of matter that is not present in the biological source. So this is called as processing. The last part in this good agricultural practices is personnel. Now, a single man cannot, or single farmer or single person will not be able to control the entire activity, right from site selection to cultivation or harvesting and storage and transport. Numerous different people are engaged. Different in sense, which who are not scientifically aware, who are not aware about why the medicinal plant have been cultivated, and they have nothing to do with the medicinal plant and all. So sometimes illiterate individuals may also be involved into this. So care has to be taken before employing any person throughout the process of agricultural practices. So now WHO has specified certain guidelines for what kind of personnel should be engaged and what kind of care should be taken for of those personnels involved. The first is knowledge and training. The persons who are employed in this agricultural processes of cultivation and harvesting should be thoroughly provided with the knowledge about what the plant is and what is the importance of this, and the do's and don'ts on the field and in the go down or during transportations. The growers and producers or workers, they should be provided with the sufficient knowledge of the medicinal plant. Sometimes you will notice that the growers are different, the producers are different, and the workers are different. Growers means who are actually involved in growing the crop. Producer means who are just making them, giving them funds and get collecting the harvest or produce and supplying it to the industry. And workers who are actually in contact with the raw material throughout the process. Adequate botanical and agricultural or collection training should be given to them. What is the how to identify the right species, how to identify the weed, how to identify the matured part, and what is the part that is of importance should be notified. Like as I have said in earlier slides, like ephedra, the worker should be given training that ephedra young stems should be collected or harvested. Agrochemical application. Now agrochemical involves pesticide as well as fertilizers. So application, the type of application, quantity and quality, everything should be, the data should be provided to the workers, as well as the importance of this should be highlighted to the workers. Plant maintenance training should be given periodically so as to make the personnels aware about what stage of the plant is desired and what is the undesired stage and what is the undesired plant part. There are certain plants which die upon flowering. So you need to take off the flowers immediately when they are in the budding conditions or buds. Post-harvest handling and primary processing stages should be elaborated to the workers, like how to harvest them, and once if they are harvested, how the produce is to be stacked or stored into the godowns. Environmental protection. There are chances that environmental protection means only plastic sheets. No. Environmental protection means there are chances that the workers may wrap around the plastic sheets to the harvested or the produced or collected crops, but in doing so, the moisture that has been left by the crude drug will retain into the plastic sheet. So they should be made aware about how different plants require different um, protection techniques or drying techniques. The conservation of plant species like over cultivation should be avoided, or proper soil management and like addition of fertilizers, addition of water should be explained to the workers in detail. Even excessive water addition will lead to soil erosion, which is not beneficial for the plant. Then again, national or regional regulations of labor laws should be respected, because there are chances that young workers or child workers or child laborers um, may may be employed sometimes by the cultivator, because they in that case they have to give just very few charges or labor wages to them. So those kind of things should not happen. The regional or national regulation should be respected. Child labor should be avoided throughout the process. Health and hygiene or sanitation, their awareness into the workers. The personals who are engaged in cultivation and harvesting, they should comply with the national or regional regulations on safety or material handling, sanitation, and hygiene. That means there are certain crops which are irritant, or their produce are irritant, that can cause toxicity to the skin, or that can be highly inflammable, or sometimes it can be very irritating to the skin. So all those things should be taken into consideration and explained well to the workers. The workers should be provided with protective gears like clothes or gowns or gloves, uh, so as to avoid their direct contact with toxic or allergenic herbs. The health status of the workers or the personnel should be monitored over the period of the time. Entry of persons who are suffering from or are carrier or of various infectious diseases should be avoided, because the sneezing or coughing on the harvested and open produce can lead to contamination of the produce and can further transmit the disease to the end user as well. So such personals or infected personnel should be restricted from entering into the processing areas. Persons suffering from diseases or the persons who have some symptoms should themselves report to the management, and management should highlight the significance of working in a healthy environment. Personals with open wounds, there are chances that the workers, there are numerous workers, and some of them might have open or infected wounds or inflammations or skin diseases, and those should be suspended from work, because they may spread the infection, or they may pour the droppings of the infected wounds into the harvested produce. Personnel suffering from certain airborne diseases or foodborne communicable diseases should, including dysentery or diarrhea, should be suspended until their recovery from the diseases, because other workers should not be affected due to one or two. The cleanliness, as far as cleanliness is concerned, since we are dealing with numerous population and on the field, there are not there are chances that all the facilities of cleanliness cannot be provided mostly. like loos or toilets, or sometimes washing of hands and all may not be provided. So in that case, the personnel should be explained the importance of maintaining cleanliness. High degree of personal cleanliness should be maintained. Foot covers or head coverings or gloves should be provided to the workers, and they should be advised to take off these protective gears during um, eating or during going to another areas which are not dealing with the production or processing area. There are at times you may notice that most of the workers, they carry their protective gears outside the production area or processing area. Now that those areas can be ancillary areas, like wherein they can have their lunch or meals, or they can use their washrooms. So the protective gear should not be carried in those areas. Washing their hands at the start of the handling activity, or after using the toilets, and after handling the medicinal plants, before and after handling the medicinal plants or any contaminated material, should be instructed properly to all the workers and should be thoroughly monitored. Personal behaviors. This is very important. Like since you are dealing again with many illiterate or suppose huge number of population on the field, there are chances that some may be addicted to smoking or drinking, or even they might eat certain restricted or sorry they might eat in the area which is restricted, like it can contaminate the material, or the material can contaminate the food or the water which the workers are consuming. The worker should not spit or sneeze or cough over the unprotected plant material, as this may cause spread of the infection or contamination. Generally, women workers, they wear jewelries or watches, and if they are engaged in the processing area, and if the drug or the crude drug is causing irritation to the skin, so such jewelry or watches should be avoided, or the worker should be instructed not to wear those materials, so as to minimize the contact with the skin of the irritant material, or sometimes the irritant material may get lodged into the jewelries or watches and cause serious skin diseases. Visitors, there are chances that various visitors, like suppose uh, suppliers or certain students of colleges or the industry personnel, may visit the processing area or cultivation or harvesting area just to know take a look at how the things are going on. So the visitors should wear appropriate protective clothing and follow all the personal instructions or hygienic provisions mentioned above to the workers. So this is all about the good agricultural practices which are enlisted by WHO. In summary, we have seen in this WHO guideline the selection of medicinal plant, identification and authentication in that selection of medicinal plant and botanical identity. The next point what we have covered was seeds and other propagation material. Next, cultivation. In cultivation, we have focused upon site selection, climate, ecological and environmental impact, social impact, irrigation and drainage, plant maintenance and protection. Then in harvest, we have seen time or the specific time period for harvesting, care to be taken during harvesting, cutting, storing and transport of the harvested material, and lastly the personnel, wherein we have seen the knowledge and training to the personnel, the importance of health and maintaining hygiene and sanitation in the processing area. So this is the summary of the entire lecture.